Prince Harry's legal war didn't just crack in court, it exploded in his face, and the very reporters he tried to destroy stood up, looked him dead in the eye, and basically said, "You invited us in." Prince Harry's legal war backfired. That's the line that changed everything. For years, Harry has been building this crusade, a personal mission almost wholly in tone against the British press. He framed it as justice, as accountability, as a son defending his mother's memory, as a husband protecting his wife. He told the world the tabloids hacked, harassed, invaded, manipulated. He positioned himself as the lone warrior against a rotten system. But in that courtroom, the narrative twisted, because suddenly it wasn't just about phone hacking or shadowy investigators, it was about invitations, rooftop parties, friendly access, emails, professional relationships. And one very uncomfortable question, was Harry always at war with the press, or did he once benefit from them? The case centers around Harry's battle with Associated Newspapers, the publishers of the Daily Mail. He claims they obtained information illegally, that they crossed lines, that they engaged in criminal behavior. Heavy accusations, the kind that stain reputations permanently. But then Rebecca English and Katie Nicholl hit back, and not softly. Katie Nicholl's response was practically courtroom dynamite. She said Harry invited her to a private party at Kensington Roof Gardens. Invited, not infiltrated, not sneaked in. Invited. She described spending time with him, socializing, staying in contact afterward. Let that sink in. The same prince now accusing journalists of violating his privacy once opened the door himself. That's not a small contradiction. That's seismic, because Harry's entire legal campaign rests on the idea that he was relentlessly hunted, that the press were parasites circling without consent. But if access was given willingly, that narrative doesn't just wobble, it fractures. And then came Rebecca English. Harry's lawyers presented an old 2007 email. They claimed it showed English attempting to obtain flight details for his then-girlfriend Chelsea Davy. The implication? Illegal sourcing, shady methods, criminal intent. But English's legal team fired back. This was standard journalistic inquiry. Routine, professional. They pointed to her long-standing working relationship with Harry during his years as a senior royal. They argued she wasn't some rogue operator. She was part of the press ecosystem Harry actively engaged with. That's the uncomfortable gray area no one likes to talk about. Because during his royal career, Harry didn't live in total media isolation. There were briefings, background conversations, carefully curated access. The monarchy and the press have always had a complicated dance, adversarial, yes, but symbiotic too. And now that dance is being replayed under oath. Inside that courtroom, the image wasn't heroic. It wasn't triumphant. Reports described Harry looking tense, stressed, uneasy. And why wouldn't he be? Every word he's spoken publicly for years is now being weighed against past behavior. Every claim of absolute victimhood is being measured against documented relationships. And then the alleged outburst. Whispers circulated that Harry invoked his royal birthright, that he implied he couldn't lose. Whether exaggerated or not, the mere rumor was damaging. Because in a legal system built on equality before the law, any suggestion of royal exception lands terribly, terribly. The optics? Brutal. This isn't just about one lawsuit. It's about credibility, about believability, about whether the public still sees Harry as the wounded prince walking behind his mother's coffin or as a man locked in endless combat with ghosts of his own choosing. Public sympathy is finite, and lawsuits are exhausting. The British public is dealing with soaring bills, NH strain, economic pressure. Against that backdrop, a California-based prince suing newspapers over decade-old grievances feels disconnected, detached, almost surreal. And here's the tension that won't go away. Harry speaks of privacy, yet profits from exposure. He condemns media intrusion, yet participated in blockbuster interviews, a Netflix documentary series, and a memoir that peeled back palace secrets in microscopic detail. So critics ask, which is it? Is this about boundaries or about control? The courtroom clash exposed that contradiction in raw form. Because when journalists testify that access was granted, that contact was maintained, it muddies the moral clarity Harry relies on. It transforms the story from black and white to painfully complex gray, and complexity is not as emotionally powerful as victimhood. This legal war also lands at a fragile moment for the monarchy. Queen Elizabeth II is gone. King Charles III is trying to project stability. Prince William is stepping deeper into his future role. The institution is rebranding itself as modern, yet steady. And then there's Harry across the ocean in active litigation against Britain's most powerful media institutions. It's not reconciliation. investigation. It's escalation. Every court appearance reopens wounds. Every filing fuels headlines. Every counterclaim peels back more history. The judge already rejected any notion of special royal immunity. That alone was symbolic. In that room, titles don't shield you. Evidence matters. Paper trails matter. Testimony matters. And right now, those elements aren't forming a neat narrative. They're forming questions. Questions about selective memory, about evolving grievances, about whether Harry's war is strategic or emotional, principled or personal. There's something tragic in it too, because even if he wins financially, what changes? Does a judgment heal old trauma? Does it restore family relationships? Does it quiet the press machine permanently? Or does it simply deepen the divide? Observers are beginning to wonder who is advising him, who's guiding this strategy. Is he surrounded by voices urging caution or encouragement to push harder? Because from the outside, it looks relentless. Lawsuit after lawsuit, statement after statement, a cycle that feeds itself. And the media, they're not retreating. They're counterpunching. Every claim is scrutinized. Every past interaction is resurfaced. Old photos, old emails, old social events. Nothing disappears in this age. And that's the paradox. In trying to expose the press, Harry is exposing himself too. His past relationships with journalists are now evidence. His tone is analyzed. His consistency is dissected. It's not a clean battlefield. It's messy, emotional, public. And when reporters calmly state in court that they were invited to parties, that they maintained professional contact, that their sourcing wasn't criminal but relational, it hits differently than anonymous tabloid gossip. It's not a screaming headline. It's sworn testimony. That's why this moment feels pivotal, because it's no longer just Harry's story versus sensational media spin. It's competing documented realities. The prince who says he was hunted, the journalists who say he opened doors, the warrior narrative colliding with inconvenient nuance. And in that collision, something cracks. The question isn't whether the press has behaved badly in the past. History shows they have. The question is whether this particular case aligns with the grand narrative Harry has built. Right now, the alignment looks shaky. His war was meant to be redemptive. Instead, it's becoming revealing. And the revelations aren't clean. They're layered, complicated, human, which might be the hardest thing of all, because once the public sees complexity, pure sympathy fades. And this legal war, once framed as righteous, now feels dangerously unpredictable. If part one cracked the image, part two shatters the illusion, because this isn't just a courtroom fight anymore, it's a credibility crisis unfolding in real time. Harry walked into this legal war believing he was standing on moral high ground. He believed the public would see him as the lone prince finally confronting the machine that tormented his mother, chased his wife, and haunted his youth. He believed the narrative was simple: abusive tabloids versus wounded royal. But courtrooms are not documentaries. They are not Netflix edits. They don't follow emotional arcs, they follow evidence. And evidence doesn't care about branding. What's happening now is bigger than Rebecca English, bigger than Katie Nicholl, bigger than one alleged email or one rooftop party. It's about a pattern being exposed, a pattern of mutual access, mutual benefit, and mutual understanding between royal and reporter. That's the part that's stinging. Because if Harry once engaged with journalists strategically, if he once allowed friendly access, informal conversations, carefully timed information flows, then the idea that the press was always an external predator becomes harder to sustain. The public is starting to notice the contradictions. He says the press invaded his privacy, yet he reveals intimate family details in interviews. He says journalists exploited him, yet he invited some of them into private spaces. He says the system was rigged, yet he operated within it successfully for years. And once doubt creeps in, it spreads fast. Court observers say the atmosphere has grown heavier with every session, each document examined, each cross-reference, each old communication resurfaced. It's not explosive shouting, it's quieter than that, more surgical. And surgical dismantling is far more dangerous than scandal, because scandal fades, dissection lingers. The alleged courtroom tension, whispers of frustration, claims of invoking birthright, even if exaggerated, feed a narrative of entitlement. Fair or unfair, perception matters. And in Britain, perception of royal humility is sacred. Harry's image once rested on vulnerability. The young soldier prince, the charitable founder, the outspoken advocate for mental health. But vulnerability can transform into grievance if repeated too often. And that's where fatigue is setting in. This legal war isn't isolated. It sits alongside memoir revelations, documentary accusations, televised interviews. It forms part of a larger arc, one where Harry consistently frames himself as battling institutions, the palace, the press, the establishment. but institutions have memory too. And now, through this lawsuit, that memory is being placed under oath. The monarchy, meanwhile, stays publicly silent. That silence is strategic. King Charles focuses on state duties. Prince William keeps engagement steady. The message from Buckingham Palace is clear: continuity, not chaos. And that contrast is brutal, because while one branch projects stability, the other projects conflict. Harry may see himself as reforming the system, but many Britons see him as destabilizing it. The financial angle doesn't help either. Critics point out the optics of a Montecito mansion prince suing British newspapers while the UK grapples with inflation, energy costs, and age pressures. Fair or not, optics matter in public life. This case isn't being judged in isolation. It's being judged within context, and context is unforgiving. There's also a deeper emotional layer here. Harry's fight against the press is inseparable from Princess Diana's legacy. Her death remains a scar on national memory. For Harry, the press is not abstract, it's personal. It's trauma. But trauma does not automatically equal legal victory. Courts require proof of specific wrongdoing, not generational grievance, not emotional narrative, concrete evidence. And when journalists counter with documented access, professional interactions, long-standing working relationships, it complicates the moral clarity. Even if Harry believes his cause is just, justice in law requires precision. Right now, precision is messy. The judge has already signaled skepticism toward broad immunity arguments. That alone punctured the aura of inevitability. No special path, no royal exception, equality before the law. It's symbolic and powerful. Meanwhile, media outlets are feasting on the irony, headlines highlighting contradictions, analysts dissecting inconsistencies, commentators questioning strategy. The war he launched against the press is fueling the very press machine he despises. That's the cruel loop. Every lawsuit creates more coverage. Every claim generates counterclaims. Every attempt to silence magnifies sound. And here's the deeper risk: erosion of trust. Public trust is fragile. It doesn't collapse overnight, it erodes gradually. A doubt here, a contradiction there, a perception shift. The boy, once universally pitied, is now divisive. Some still see courage, others see obsession. Some see accountability, others see vendetta. That split is new. What makes this moment so pivotal is that it's not just tabloids attacking Harry. It's journalists calmly asserting under oath that their interactions were legitimate. That access was mutual. That reporting was not criminal conspiracy but professional engagement. Sworn statements carry weight. If Harry ultimately wins aspects of the case, he may secure damages. Headlines will briefly shift in his favor, but reputational recovery is more complicated than legal triumph because reputations are built on coherence, and coherence right now feels fractured. Even allies are reportedly advising caution. Legal battles are draining financially, emotionally, strategically. They consume years. They amplify scrutiny. They rarely end cleanly. And the monarchy, though silent, cannot entirely detach. Each courtroom revelation indirectly reflects on the institution. Even if Harry is no longer a working royal, his title still binds perception. It's a delicate dance, one side projecting unity, the other waging legal war. The tragedy is that Harry still possesses immense potential. His work with veterans, mental health advocacy, charitable initiatives, those achievements are real. They resonate, but constant litigation overshadows them. The narrative becomes dominated by combat rather than contribution. And here's the brutal question echoing through commentary panels and pub conversations alike. What is the endgame? Total press reform? Unlikely. Personal vindication? Partial at best. Reconciliation with the royal family? Hard to imagine amid ongoing lawsuits. Silencing critics? Impossible in a free press society. The war seems infinite, and infinite wars exhaust even the most sympathetic audiences. Perhaps Harry sees this as necessary pain, a long arc towards systemic change. Perhaps he believes future generations will thank him for confronting entrenched media practices. But history judges outcomes, not intentions. Right now, the outcome looks uncertain. The courtroom is not a stage where emotion wins applause. It's a forum where documentation dictates consequence. And documentation cuts both ways. Harry wanted to expose the press. Instead, the press is exposing the complexity of his past relationships with them. He wanted a clear moral battlefield. Instead, he got a layered historical audit. He wanted accountability. He's getting scrutiny. And scrutiny, once unleashed, doesn't politely retreat. This legal war may not be over. Appeals may follow. Rulings may shift, arguments may evolve, but something has already changed. The image of absolute victimhood has cracked. In its place stands a more complicated figure, a prince shaped by trauma, yes, but also by choices. A man fighting institutions, yet once benefiting from them. A royal claiming invasion, yet documented inviting access. Complexity is not villainy, but it is messy. And messiness doesn't trend as heroism. Prince Harry's legal war was meant to be a reckoning for the press. Instead, it has become a reckoning for him. The court will deliver its judgments in time, but the court of public opinion is already deliberating, and its verdict feels far less predictable than Harry ever imagined. Harry ever imagined. Harry ever imagined. Harry ever imagined.